Horrific pictures today of Ashford General Hospital, the A&E department. I say A&E, it's basically a corridor full of, there it is in the sun, full of trolleys with very old people on especially. We heard only last week that it's fairly regular for, in these circumstances, people to die and to lie there dead among other living patients for hours before the hard-pressed staff realise that they passed away. Now, Wes Streeting, and people always say, oh, Wes Streeting, he's one of the better ones, isn't he? Well, yeah, maybe, but he keeps shouting about, I'm going to reform the NHS, I'm going to reform the NHS. Well, all he's doing so far, if I can put it this way, is messing around the edges and not doing anything at all substantial. I just want, I want a health secretary to come in and say, do you know what? We're not going to spend £40 million a year on 800 diversity officers. We're going to take that money and spend it on nurses and doctors, frontline medical workers. Do you know what? We're going to do something about the 3,500 unmedically qualified middle managers who earn £100,000 a year or more, many of them on around about 300,000, 400,000, vast sums being earned by 3,500 people. I want a health secretary to come in and say, I'm going to get rid of a load of these people because you don't need them. I'm going to get rid of these diversity officers and I'm going to divert the money where it's needed to frontline medical services. Have we had any inkling of that from Wes Streeting? No, we haven't. He is going to disappear into the abyss of ineffectiveness that all health secretaries disappear into.
Well, I'm glad you think that, and I think that is probably the most likely scenario because, Kev, even if he did what you said, what you suggested, and got rid of all the diversity and equality and inclusion officers and put out an edict to all hospitals saying you're not celebrating Black History Month, because yes, that is something they actually do with exhibition stands and special events, and you just can't imagine why on earth the health service should be spending their time celebrating Black History Month, but that is a thing. The scale of the crisis in the NHS is not just a winter crisis, as we all know, is so gargantuan that measures like that aren't even going to touch the sides. And the thing is that Wes Streeting, in a Labour government with a majority the size that this one has, does actually have the power to do something properly radical. And I'm not talking about dismantling the NHS or not giving care that's free at the point of delivery. I'm talking about a total overhaul of the way the NHS is funded. And we won't go into boring policy detail here, but he has the opportunity, because of Labour's majority, to do something that might just set the health system on a new path. But he won't do it because of the unions, because of all the people that support natural Labour supporters will start shrieking and wailing and gnashing their teeth, saying that it's all a disaster and, he would be ending the NHS as we know it and so on. So unless he has some kind of courage, which I have yet to see, and it would take immense courage, he's not going to do that. And therefore, we're going to see these pictures of patients on trolleys and more of them for the next few years. And that is a crying shame. If he did do something radical, Wes Streeting could actually save Labour from the disaster it's in and might even get the party re-elected.
But he won't. He won't. And his contribution so far has been the classic Labour response to the NHS. The NHS is always going, we want more money, we need more money. Well, stop spending 40 million quid on 800 diversity officers. There's a start. That will give you some more money. Give us more money, give us more money. So Wes Streeting's contribution so far is to give the NHS 25 billion quid more than the standard issue 190 billion quid a year they get as a matter of course. So 190 billion, an extra 25 billion. They might, as I always say, West might as well have taken that 25 billion quid, built it into a bonfire and set fire to it. That disappears into the NHS money pit and nothing will happen. Meanwhile, MPs on the Public Accounts Committee only yesterday warned that the NHS, talking about these 3,500 middle managers, most of whom have job titles, you can't even work out what it is they do, some of them on astronomical money, 350, 400,000, and much more than doctors, much more than consultants. Anyway, the MPs on the Public Accounts Committee yesterday warned that the NHS is run by bureaucrats who are out of ideas. And they certainly seem to be. Wes Streeting is supposed to have ideas. I don't think he has any at all.
Well, here's another thing about the way the NHS is run. I do know quite a bit about this because I spent a long time studying the state of the NHS for a book. And one thing that might shock people is that there's no particular qualifications for running a hospital. You know, these managers, these chief executives are just basically drawn from a kind of cast of characters that just go round from one NHS trust
the great
to
and the good, the great and the good, yeah.
They're not great and they're not that good.
I agree with that.
They're not good at all. You know, it's a miracle. It's regarded as a miracle if they last more than 2 years in any given trust. And what is the penalty for failing, for demonstrably not performing? The penalty is nothing. You just move on to another job in the NHS where you perform equally badly. And you need zero qualifications of any particular kind to do this job. So is it any wonder that there is such a poverty of performance? You know, we're not recruiting people from the world of business that have turned failing companies around. We're not doing that. We're just recruiting endless kind of pen pushers who know how NHS hospitals don't work and continue to make them not work.
Well, let's talk about the chief executive, someone called Amanda Pritchard, not medically qualified. She joined the NHS Management Training Scheme in 1997 and has worked for the NHS for her entire career. That's Amanda Pritchard, the totally useless chief executive, not medically qualified, you know, proving your point, really.
Well, to me, that CV should be a disqualification for the job that she's got. It's no good employing someone who's always been in the NHS to run the NHS. How on earth are they going to think outside the NHS box about how to fix what's going wrong? I mean, she is utterly immersed. She's basically, you know, a human embodiment of the NHS on two legs. She's never going to change anything. And the tragedy of that appointment is that at the time that appointment was made, there was another candidate who came from the private sector and is one of the most respected experts in healthcare delivery all over the world. And he didn't get the job because his private sector credentials were seen to be a disadvantage. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know? And that, by the way, was under the Tories.
It's ridiculous. So, by the way, Amanda Pritchard, she earned in a couple of years ago, that's her latest salary, £330,000 a year. I would imagine she's on £500,000 a year. And to be fair to her, there are some of these middle managers who earn much more than that. So, you know, she's taking quite a reasonable income there. But 330 grand a year to run the NHS really, really badly. Nice work if you can get it.